Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. This month is a special episode where I'll take some time to reflect on my experience attending and speaking at the Alicante Nomad Summit 2026. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mary Ogbeidi-Grion. I've been working exclusively remotely as a bookkeeper since 2017. I've had the privilege of living in 4 different countries, learning firsthand what it means to build a career while constantly adapting to new environments, cultures, time zones and communities. Those experiences eventually inspired me to create Mosaic Gold, a platform designed to support remote workers through downloadable resources, educational content, online courses and honest conversations about how to succeed as a remote worker. But to start, let's talk about the rise of nomad summits. As remote work and digital nomadism have evolved dramatically over the last decade, what once seemed like an unconventional lifestyle choice has now become a legitimate and growing global workforce movement. In the early days, remote workers often felt isolated. There weren't many structured communities, professional resources, or networking opportunities specifically designed for people building location-independent careers. The earliest digital nomad conferences started appearing in the mid-2010s as a way for remote workers, freelancers, entrepreneurs, online business owners, and globally mobile professionals to connect in person. Cities like Chiang Mai in Thailand became famous hubs for early digital nomads because of the affordable lifestyle, strong co-working culture, and international community. Chiang Mai is one of my favourite cities. I've spent a lot of time there over the years. Conferences and meetups soon followed in places such as Lisbon in Portugal, Bali in Indonesia, Berlin in Germany, Barcelona in Spain, Medellin in Colombia, Mexico City in Mexico, Budapest in Hungary, Split in Croatia, and Madeira also in Portugal. People attended to share practical advice, discuss visas and taxation, learn about productivity, mental health, entrepreneurship, sustainable travel, and community building. Some attended to find collaborators. Others came looking for friendships, but many came because they simply wanted to feel understood. One of the most interesting things about Nomad Summits is that they attract people from incredibly diverse industries. You'll find software developers, writers, accountants, marketers, designers, educators, therapists, startup founders, content creators, and corporate professionals all in the same room. And despite having very different careers, there's a shared understanding that remote work changes the way you live, think, communicate, and connect with the world. As the movement has matured, so have the conversations happening at these events. Early digital nomad discussions often focused heavily on freedom and travel. Now the discussions are broader and deeper, as I discovered in Alicante last month. The Alicante Nomad Summit is part of a growing movement of international gatherings dedicated to remote work, digital entrepreneurship, innovation and global mobility. Held in Alicante, Spain, a beautiful coastal city on the Mediterranean, the summit brings together remote professionals, entrepreneurs, creatives, educators and business leaders from around the world. Alicante itself is actually the perfect setting for this type of event, with its excellent weather, strong international community, affordable living compared to many major European cities, and a growing co-working and startup culture. Spain has increasingly become one of Europe's major remote work destinations, especially with the introduction of remote work visa pathways and expanding international communities. The summit reflects that momentum. After a free guided tour of Alicante and a lunch in a pizzeria in the centre of town with other attendees, I had the pleasure of attending workshops on subjects as varied as how AI is reshaping business, storytelling and content strategy, mindful leadership and emotional regulation, and public speaking for remote professionals. The last workshop I was available to attend was hosted by Isabelle Bears-Gil, whose presentation was a real eye-opener in terms of the opportunities that exist for remote workers to positively impact rural communities. Check out her LinkedIn page for more information on Enplast and Alvarans. This is just a snapshot of what was on offer. I was working most of the week, so I wasn't as available as I perhaps would have liked to have been. That's a lesson learned for next time. So, my first public speaking experience. Well, naturally, as I prepared my workshop, I was quite nervous as I had never spoken publicly in this way before. However, when I reflected on the open-minded culture and atmosphere of the summit, it reminded me of how important it was to simply be myself. The title of my workshop was Remote Work, Personality and Performance. The session, which was interactive, lasted about an hour and explored 4 major themes. Is there a remote worker personality? Why environment matters? Why a growth mindset is critical? And bid for connection. These topics came directly from my own lived experiences and observations over the years. I'm working on making a recording of the workshop available in due course, but for now, here are some of the main points. So firstly, is there a remote worker personality? Well, although many who have a negative perspective on remote workers presume that their approach to work is both unprofessional and isolating, our discussion highlighted that success in remote work often comes from self-awareness, and that far from being isolating, remote work can genuinely be a valuable opportunity to prioritise the connections that matter. Why environment matters? Far from speaking about geographical location, of course, we underscored the importance of targeting the right industries to maintain enthusiasm and motivation. Why a growth mindset is critical. Everyone knows that the huge benefit coming from working remotely is the freedom and flexibility. What's important not to forget is to use this flexibility to be available for training opportunities, explore other avenues, and broaden horizons. Amongst a wealth of online content and platforms for connection, podcasts are an important tool. Skills developed during working hours may seem limited, but the projects and interests that can be explored outside of working hours are endless. Bid for connection. Following on from that last point, we saw how pursuing new interests and projects, even remotely, leads to making enriching connections with contacts from around the world. One of the most valuable aspects of the Alicante Nomad Summit was the networking and idea exchange that happened naturally throughout the event. That diversity created an incredible exchange of ideas in a relaxed and friendly environment. I've racked up quite a few LinkedIn connections during the week and beyond. Just this week, I checked in over Zoom with 9 different people I met, and again, these brief conversations were full of interesting insights, a generous share of ideas, and plans for potential future collaborations, including, of course, podcast episode appearances. All of us agreed that we're so happy to have attended the summit, to have met so many great people, and learnt so much from each other in a relaxed atmosphere. The whole event was pulled together by Maria, Jean-Baptiste, and Emilia, in association with the NomadWay app, which was founded by Maria and Jean-Baptiste. And it was the app that was used as the platform for practical and social information exchange during the event. Honestly, I came away from the summit feeling a certain sense of responsibility to be active in this global community, to not take it for granted, and therefore share, support, and essentially not retreat into an isolation which sometimes can feel comfortable and productive, but can also be unhealthy. The NomadWay app, for example, hosts online events every week, and I pushed myself to attend one already this week about cryptocurrency. As remote work continues growing globally, I believe gatherings like the Alicante Nomad Summit will become increasingly important, and more awareness that remote work affects people psychologically and socially, not just professionally. That's one of the reasons I remain passionate about Mosaic Gold. I want to continue helping people approach remote work thoughtfully and sustainably, especially younger generations who may only see the curated social media version of this lifestyle. Because while remote work can be incredibly rewarding, it also requires mindfulness and discipline. And I believe community plays a huge role in making it sustainable. So looking back now, speaking at the Alicante Nomad Summit feels like an important milestone in my personal and professional journey. It connected me with remarkable people. It reinforced the importance of honest conversations around remote work. And it reminded me that sharing experiences openly can genuinely help others. I think one of the most beautiful things about the remote work community is that people are constantly learning from one another. We're all experimenting, adapting and evolving in different ways. Events like the Alicante Nomad Summit create space for those shared experiences. And for me personally, it was both humbling and inspiring to contribute to that conversation for the first time as a speaker. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity, and I'm excited to continue building conversations, resources and communities that support remote workers around the world. And news just in, the Alicante Nomad Summit 2027 will take place on the 19th to the 25th of April. So if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.